Put your hands together, he's 95.
Greetings everyone, and thank you, Alan, for that glowing introduction. Now, I pondered over what I might say here this afternoon, but on Christmas Eve, 1944, 400 Lancasters bombed the Krupp steelworks in the Ruhr. When we got back to the English Channel, the whole of Britain, the meteorological people, had made a hell of a blow, and the whole of the British Isles was covered in fog. And we've got 400 Lancasters in the air with less than 2 hours still left, and they had to get down. Now, the RAF in their wisdom had set up 3 aerodromes in the UK with an installation they called FIDO. This was fog installation dispersal organisation. And this consisted of pipes run out alongside the runway, out of the sides of the runway, with slots cut in them, and they had pumped petrol into them and ignited them. And these were covered 800 yards, and they pumped petrol into them, and there was enough flames there to lift the fog, and it sat above this hole in the fog as a cloud with the flames lighting it up, and you could see it from 100 miles away. So it was very good. But the thing was that we had, there were 130 aeroplanes in the group that landed we landed there were 3 of these aerodromes in the UK, and one of them was at Windley in Norfolk. It was an American aerodrome, and they didn't have a very big complement of people there, only about 150, I think. And anyway, when we got back, we could see this place from 100 miles away. We headed for it, and we had to come in. You've got to bear in mind the fog's only about 50, 60 feet thick, and we had to come in on 800 yards in aeroplanes that weighed about 15 tons empty. We had to come in 1 short and 1 well up in 800 yards. And you don't have to make a lot of mistakes to cause a hell of a mess in a situation like that. Now, I'm very pleased to tell you that we got 130 something aeroplanes down there in a bit over an hour, and we were landing 1 short and 1 well up on 800 yards. As soon as you got onto the runway, you had your gyro, you had your directional gyro turned on, and as soon as you got the wheels down, you went straight into the fog. So we had to keep straight with the gyro, and we couldn't put the brakes on because the coke behind us might run into us, and if the cove in front of us did it, well, we might have run into him. So we drifted to a stop, and immediately, almost immediately, there were a jeep would appear with sodium lights on the back saying, "Follow me." Now, because the ground was frozen, we were able to taxi anywhere on that aerodrome. Had it not been frozen, it would have been total disaster after the first few aeroplanes had landed. However, I'm very pleased to be able to tell you that we got 130 Lancasters down in a bit over an hour, and as far as I'm aware, there wasn't one wingtip, one tail plane, or one nose damaged in this whole operation. And because the ground was frozen, we were able to taxi them anywhere, and it takes a hell of a lot of room to park 100 Lancasters. So we were able to, the Yanks led us across in these jeeps. We parked the aeroplane, and they took us back to the west.
Well, this is New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, isn't it? The day before Christmas. Christmas Eve?
Yes, it was Christmas Eve. And as I said earlier, it was Christmas Eve. And
it's been a long going.
Santa Claus came and we didn't.
Christmas Eve.
Rain. And I think Santa Claus was after it pretty well that night. Anyway, these Yanks got us to the best, and of course they were able to give us a drink and a cup of tea, but there was only about 100 of them in this mess, and suddenly they had 7 times 130, 910 extra aircrew dropped it on for Christmas.
What was the temperature? What was the temperature? How cold was it? How cold?
Eh?
How cold was it outside? What was the temperature? How cold was it outside, Edgar?
Oh, it was damn cold.
That's good enough.
It was the second night we were there. We walked about 3 miles down to the pub, and the frost was hanging on the telephone lines about 6 inches, about 6-inch drifts, and the line was sagged down like that. You could nearly reach up and touch it. But the beer was all right, and it didn't run out. Anyhow, so, well, these Yanks, they did the best they could for us. They didn't have beds. There was only about 100 of them. So they gave us 10 blankets. And this is a hut with a concrete floor, no beds. So we slept in our flying suits with 10 blankets on a concrete floor. We huddled together a bit and managed to be there, still alive next morning. So now, when we went to bed, we could hear trucks running up, going out the gate. And next day, of course, was Christmas Day. And these Yanks had sent their trucks to their depots, their food depots and their supply depots. And next morning, we got up, they put on a magnificent breakfast for us, and they put on a Christmas dinner that you'd had to see to believe. It was absolutely magnificent, you know, sweet corn and ham and turkey and chicken and base at where we were back to where we were based. But I thought it was an incredible performance by these Americans, and it was almost unbelievable that there was no damage to any property or to any aeroplane that I knew of. There was no damage at all. So I thought it wasn't a bad effort. And so, ladies and gentlemen, unless you've got questions.
No, I've got to ask you, can I ask you a few questions?
What?
I need to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Have a mouthful of that beer. Thank you, Annie, for the beer. Edgar. Edgar flew, I think you all know, but Edgar flew Lancasters, which was a very successful bomber, probably the most successful bomber in the Second World War. 4 Rolls-Royce engines. Weighed 16, 17 tonne or maybe even more, fully bombed up. What was it like when you lost an engine? What was it like to fly when you lost an engine?
If you lost an engine?
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't bad. wasn't bad. Provided you weren't trying to maintain 20,000 feet and you didn't have a bomb load. But I'd say that if we went on 3 one night to target fairly deep into Germany, and we bombed from about 10,000 feet and everybody else was up about 18. And then on the way home, because we were low, we got iced up and had a hell of a time. It wasn't funny at all. We should have turned back and we shouldn't have attempted to complete the mission on 3 engines. So, but just flying across country, if you lost an engine, no trouble at all. They flew quite well on 3 engines. But of course, when you're flying at maximum weight, with maximum fuel, we used to carry 2,154 gallons of fuel, and we generally carried about 15,000 to 16,000 pounds of bombs, and so if you took an engine out, then your performance dropped substantially. You know.
How fast would you lose? You lose an engine. How fast would you? How much speed dropped off?
I don't think we'd have flown much above 15,000 feet on 3 engines.
And how fast would you go, Edgar?
Oh, we'd have lost a bit of forward speed too. Probably we flew at about 150 or 60 indicated, which might have been 210 or 20. We'd have come back 15 or 20 miles an hour of speed, and we'd have been at least 5,000 feet lower. So, and of course, you're on your own down there, and if a fighter's poking about, well, they can pick you up easier than if you were in a group much higher up. But, it wasn't very exciting being on 3 engines, and it didn't, but fortunately, I think I did 50 trips, and I think we only lost an engine on 2 occasions, so we were very, very fortunate. But now,
Edgar,
any questions?
Edgar, later on in life, when the war was over and you went farming back to Barham,
Yes.
you and a mate of yours did something pretty stupid, totally illegal. You went out and bought two little aeroplanes. What were they? You bought them from Jerilderie or somewhere.
Oh,
what were they?
Ryan.
No.
That's great time.
Yeah.
And then,
But then you bought 2 other aircraft. What were they?
they were destroying aeroplanes at Tokyo, and unknown to me, this fellow that I knew was buying these aeroplanes for $100 rather than see them destroy them. You see, these Mustangs.
The gentleman, the ladies and gentlemen, they were a P-51 Mustang, and Edgar and his mate bought them for $100 each. They're worth about $3 million now, so it wasn't a bad deal. They're worth about $3 million now, so not a bad deal, eh?
Oh, more.
More now.
But anyway, they're worth about 7 or 8 million. But anyway, he had, and of course Alan here, he's got a P-40, is it a 40?
Yes.
Kitty Hawk.
Yeah.
And he's rebuilt a lot of them himself. But, and it would be worth a lot of money too. But,
So Edgar, what would you do with the Mustang? What would you'd go for little bits of job, because you didn't have a license, you weren't allowed to fly, but that didn't seem to stop you, did it? What would you do with it?
Well,
where would you go?
Oh, we didn't fly to Sydney. Didn't fly to Sydney or Melbourne. and I don't think I flew it over to Albury, but we used to fly around the countryside. A lot of mates around the bush, and we'd give them a stir. And we had a lot of fun with them. But we didn't. And if you wanted to get from A to B in a hurry,
it's a bloody good way of doing it.
And there was somewhere you could land, a decent paddock or something, well, it was the perfect way to do it. And so there we are.
So Edgar, your flying days haven't finished, really, have they? You're 95 years old, and you constantly talk to me about getting the old aeroplane back together and flying. So,
yes.
And a little bit of frustration, a little bit of paperwork.
Yes.
But really, you're ready to go, aren't you?
Well, I find flying a hell of a lot easier than walking.
Have a beer, have a drink. Have we got some questions for Edgar Pickles? Everybody's bored. Come on, someone's got something to say.
Now, what about when he went to Tamora in the Mustang? He took his Mustang out to Tamora.
You take your Mustang up to, you took your Mustang, you flew your Mustang up to Tamora?
Now I picked one up at Tamora and flew it back here.
Right.
Yes.
What year, when was that? What year or?
Oh, that would have been about late 60s, I think.
Okay.
Yes. But, Mustang was a very nice aeroplane to fly. As long as you had to control the torque, and they like to swing to the left a lot. But when you were flying them, it was interesting. The torque was from this great big propeller. It was I think it was about a 12-foot diameter propeller.
Yeah, 13 feet. Yeah. 13.
And 4 blades. They create a lot of torque. And we used to take the torque out with trim. So really, when you were flying it, instead of flying it with the stick, you were flying it a lot on rudder trim. Every time you altered the throttle, you'd alter the rudder trim to take the load off the control. And once you got used to this, they were very, very easy to fly.
Was the Lancaster like that too? Like lots of trimming? Did you trim the Lancaster?
Not to the same extent.
Yeah.
But you had 4 engines, you see, and they were even with 1 engine out. You didn't have to make big corrections to keep the thing straight. Yeah. But when you've just got one engine and all this torque going on the tailplane, it was much easier to fly the Mustang on trim or on rotor trim than it was to fly with to rely on pressure on the stick to keep it straight or do what you want.
So what we're talking about here is, for people who don't understand, is that you were talking about torque, and it's about, you've got 1800 horsepower in the engine, and it's great big props, and it's got this momentum like a bucket of water swinging around. Eventually, if you put too much power on, you can actually torque roll the aeroplane around the propeller. So on takeoff at 20 feet, you could be upside down if you really put the power on. So it's a bit of fun doing, and you've got to be very good on your feet with the rudder pedal, and I wish every pilot who learns today learnt on tail wheel draggers. Is that right, Edgar? Everybody should do that?
Well, I'm not quite clear on your question.
I'm just saying that every young pilot these days should still learn to fly with the wheel at the back of the aeroplane, so they get their feet moving.
Well, yes, well, of course, tricycle undercarriages are much easier to handle on the ground than tail wheels. So the old tail wheel is very good training. But more and more of these light aircraft now have tricycle gear, and it makes them very, very easy to handle on the ground. You know, you don't get these violent swings and...
We've got a question over here.
You know?
How did Edgar,
Yes.
how did Edgar end up in the...
You don't finish up coming the way you were going.
How did he end up in the English Air Force? Did he train here and then go over, or was he...
What, Edgar? How did you flew for an Australian squadron in England, or did you fly for the RAF? How did you end up in England?
No, we were posted. Well, where the losses were was where you went. But I did 2 tours over there, and on both occasions I was on RAF squadrons. But we did have other Australians and Canadians and New Zealanders with us on these squadrons, although they were RAF. Now, and the RAF squadrons over there had RAF people in them, and you just got posted to where the losses were. So that's how they kept the Air Force going and kept it together.
Every 1 in 3 didn't make it. So three people out there in that bomber command, 1 didn't come back. So there was a horrific loss of personnel.
Yes, bomber command had more casualties than all the other services put together at some stage during the war. But 55,500 people died in bomber command, and I think there were 3,460 Australians or 400 something Australians included in that. But well, we had very heavy losses, and but eventually we brought Germany to their knees. You see, the final stages of the war, we had bombed their synthetic fuel plants and their fuel depots and their rocket sites to such an extent that by the time the war ended, they didn't have enough fuel to fly the airplanes that they had. And so really, that was the beginning of that was virtually the end of the war for them. Once they couldn't put their aeroplanes in the air, they weren't doing too well on the ground. The Russians were pushing them in the east, and the Americans and the Allies were pushing them from the west. And the show folded up quite quickly. But once they went out of fuel, that was the end of it. Yes.
Question.
If you talk about the time you flew a Spitfire.
Edgar, when did you fly a Spitfire?
Oh. Now we had my CO was doing a staff course at Cranwell. Now Cranwell was the Duntroon of the RAF. The King trained in the Air Force. He was the first of the royal family ever to train in the Air Force. All the others were trained in the Navy. Anyway, my CO had been on a course at Cranwell, and he brought back with him a very experienced fighter pilot called Squadron Leader, Wing Commander Pete Hugo. He was a Boer from South Africa, and he had a DSO and 2 bars, a DFC and bar, a French Croix de Guerre, and he had some Russian going as well. And he was the most highly decorated pilot, I think, that I had ever seen. We were having a drink in the mess the night he arrived, and the CO said, Pickles, he said, Pete would like to fire Lancaster. Would you take him up? I said, certainly. So anyhow, the next day we went out, and we could not find a dual Lancaster. That's a Lancaster with two controls in it, you see, that you use for instructing. The operational ones only had
One set of controls, so one pilot.
pilot. And so, anyhow, we took an Albury leg up with no second controls. So I took it off and we stood it round and put it through a slight envelope, and I fitted a couple of engines and flew it along. And then I put him in the left-hand seat, and he went through all this, and he was doing it very well after he got the feel of it. And when we were coming in, I said, we went up then and we did a simulated landing. We put the undercarriage down and the flaps down, and got the speed back till it stalled, and he was handling all this pretty well. So I left him in the left-hand seat, and we came in, and I said, now, if I'm not happy with this approach and the landing, I will push the 4 throttles forward and we'll go around again. So we were coming in, he was handling it quite well. We got it on the run, he got it down on the runway, and it was quite a reasonable landing, and he pulled up without running into the far fence. And he was tickled, he was delighted with this, you see. And so we were having a few drinks that night in the mess, and I said, Pete, I said, I'd like to fly a Spitfire. He said, Louis, if you got the team there, you can fly the Spitfire. So when I went on leave, I put my helmet in my bag and went down, and he took me up in the Spitfire, and we took it up in a dual master first. We found a master. That was a thing like a whirlaway with two sets of controls in And we did 2 circuits in that, and then he took me over to the Spitfire and put me in that, and he said, now, you know, keep the right wing up on takeoff, because the torque, this big propeller, about a 13-foot propeller, the wingspan was only 29 feet, so the propeller was trying to turn the aeroplane around the propeller, and the torque was pushing down the right wing. And so you had to have your stick hard over to the left, and you couldn't use full power for takeoff. Otherwise, you could never control the torque. As you got more speed, you could keep the aeroplane stable and control the torque. And of course, once you got off the ground, then you could open it up and climb very rapidly. So I got off the ground, got the wheels up, and I pulled the nose up like that, and had a look at the airspeed, and I'm doing about 160, and I was supposed to be doing 130, and we were going up like a rocket, and really, I took it up to about 12,000 feet. And I did a roll, a slow roll, and I didn't have my straps tight enough. I was hanging my head on the canopy. I nearly knocked myself out. Anyway, we got round, did a few more rolls, and some aerobatics, and came back. And I was cheeky enough when we got back to do 2 slow rolls at about 1,500 feet on the downwind leg before you turn into land, you see. This is for Hugo's benefit. Anyway, I don't think he was going to watch me. He'd gone into the nest to have a drink. Anyway, so it was a great trip. But after that, we had Spitfire and a couple of Hurricanes on the unit I was instructing on, and they were there for fighter affiliation, so I was able to fly them and get a little more single-engine flying, because I was never very proficient on singles. But so that's about it.
Any more questions? Quickly, yes?
Edgar, I understand that on your flying missions, that after you dropped the bombs, you went down to ground level.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
On ground level to get home, rather than going up high where the Anzac was higher. Is that true?
So on a bombing run, after a bombing run over Germany, would you drop down to lower levels and go home? Would you drop down to the ground?
No. Oh, bombing raids over Germany. We used to, generally we bombed as high as we could, at 17, 18, 20,000 feet if we could get it. And we were generally given a bombing height, and we would try and maintain that. But it was very lively over the target. There were a lot of aeroplanes, you're hitting a lot of strip streams. There's bomb doors open above you, there's bombs whistling down all around you, and it wasn't very healthy. And to answer your question, generally we bombed as high as we could get, and I think we had pathfinders who used to mark the target for us, particularly if it was cloudy. They would put target markers, drop target markers, which were flares that exploded. They dropped like bombs and exploded. Flares came out, and very bright coloured flares, and we used to bomb those flares. Provided the pathfinders had dropped them accurately, the rain was usually a pretty good success.
One last question.
When you were in the single control aircraft with the other pilot, how did you swap seats?
You didn't need to swap seats. You would have dual controls.
No, he only had single controls.
No, that was in the Lancaster.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what
We
I'm
didn't have
talking
dual
about.
control
In the Lanc.
in the
That's what I'm
Lancaster.
talking
Yeah.
about.
No, we didn't have dual control in the Lancasters, in the operational ones, but we had a flight engineer, and he stood beside the pilot, and he had a seat a little seat he could fold out and sit on, but he didn't fly the aeroplane.
No, sorry, that's...
I taught my engineer to fly the aeroplane in case I was incapacitated. We didn't ever have to resort to this, except, no, we didn't.
When you were in the Lancaster with the highly decorated pilot who wanted to fly the Lancaster, you said that you moved him over to the left-hand seat.
Correct.
How did that happen?
So what happens is that there's only one set of controls in the Lancaster, unless you get a trainer, which is set up with two controls. So this left-hand seat is the pilot, and that's it. Full stop. Full stop. And so Edgar trusted this Spitfire pilot to jump over to the left side, up there, not a big deal. He'd fly, like the way he was coming in on landing. You can land it, young fella. It's okay. And this is the way they flew.
Yeah.
Yes,
It was all pretty easy, wasn't it, really? Piece of cake.
well, Lancaster wasn't a hard aeroplane to fly, but all aeroplanes are easy to fly, but they're much more difficult to fly accurately.
Has he got any more medals still to
And
come?
particularly if you're bombing
That's what that.
or something like that, and when you're taking off and landing. But
Could I just say one thing, Edgar? So that's a great comment, but I just want to tell you something. This guy's 95 years old. He has not forgotten one setting, one speed,
Absolutely.
one load, one bearing. So spoiler Edgar Pickles, on his day, when he was 24, how old were you?
what's this?
How old were you when you were bombing? When you were flying over Germany? How old?
How long? Oh,
Yes.
I was 21
Yes.
when I learned to fly in the Air Force.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then what I'm getting at is this guy would have been so ultra sharp. He would have been the best of the best of the best. And his figures to these, I talk to him, he rattles off figures of the planes I fly. He has a memory. It's absolutely amazing. So, one question from you.
Well,
There's one little question.
there's one thing I should Winston Churchill, in 1943, broadcast to the nation, and he said that the progress in Africa was good. They were still using a lot of ships in the Atlantic with U-boats, German U-boats, and the Atlantic was a lot. The Allies had to rely on nearly all their supplies and fuel coming across the Atlantic. And the Germans had a lot of U-boats there sinking shipping. And when one ship was sunk in our convoy, and 2 or 3 days out of Nova Scotia, and really, and you had a lifespan of 3 minutes in the water. It was that cold, and the destroyers rushed round, thrashed round, and tried to picked up a few people, but more, a very big percentage of those people just drowned. And so the coastal command, of course, and was very important. But and fuel was scarce. They all had to come across the Atlantic, and they couldn't make enough Merlin engines for the Lancasters, and they gave Packard in America a contract to build Lancasters, build Merlin engines, and they built thousands and thousands of them, and they were damn good engines. And most of the time, when I was in the UK, I flew behind in Lancasters that were fitted with Packard, built Merlin engines in them.
They were good engines, but they weren't as good as an Allison.
What's that?
They were very good engines. Now, for the oldest guy here, I want you to answer a question from the youngest person here. Yes, madam.
Any more questions?
Yes, just here.
So,
What are your medals for?
What is this?
What are your medals? Can you explain your medals?
What?
Your medals.
Oh, well, now, that's the DFC, the Distinguished Flying Cross, and that little thing on it there is a bar. You see that thing? That means that you won it twice, or it was awarded to you twice.
See, they wouldn't give you two of them because they were too expensive, so they just had a bit on.
Yeah, I couldn't afford all that purple ribbon. Now, the next one is a 1939 45 star, and lots and lots and lots of people got that one. And then the next one, I don't know what it is.
hold them up for us.
Anyway,
It looks very colourful though, doesn't it?
Italy, might be an Italy star. No, an Aircrew Europe star, and one is a France and Germany star, and then the last one is a defence medal or something.
Is there still another
there
one to
you
come?
are.
Is there more to come?
Thank you
Sorry,
for your
Is there still
question,
another
young
one to
lady.
come?
There's, Edgar, just because this is the last thing, Edgar, the French, how are we going? The war's been over for 60, 70 years, 70 years?
70.
Yeah.
And they've finally got off their arse, and I think they're going to give you another medal. Now, what can you quickly tell us about that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is a big joke. Don't get excited about anything that the French are going to do for you. Because now I've got a girlfriend who's going out with a Frenchman, and I said, well, Kylie, I said, don't get too excited about this. I said, it could well take you 70 years before you'll get a proposal. Now, so what's happened, 70 years after the end of the war, the French have decided to give us all a Croix de Guerre. Now, this Croix de Guerre was instituted by Napoleon in about 1802, and it's the highest decoration France has. They have decided to give this decoration to everyone who flew across France to bomb Germany. So, if I live long enough, I might get one.
One more question.
I worked in a drawing office in Sydney years ago, drawing the undercarriages of the Lancaster bombers. Were they produced here?
Should have had a microphone, right?
No, this woman worked in Sydney,
Yes.
and she drew the undercarriage drawings for Lancaster.
She what?
And what is the question that?
I wondered if they were produced in a
was the undercarriage produced in Australia of a Lancaster?
No, definitely not.
We did build something similar. What was that called?
Well, we built Beauforts out here and some aeroplanes. I'm not familiar, but I'm pretty sure there were no Lancasters built in Australia, and I don't believe that we built any undercarriages for them out here.
Well, I was doing all
Yes.
Yeah, but
But I can tell you all that it was almost a universal practice in bomber command for the crews. When you got up, there was always a bit of apprehension before you went on an op, you see. And it was standard practice on all the squadrons I was on for each of the crew to have a pee on the port wheel before you took off.
so maybe that's where the drawings. Maybe there's something in that. And we'll report back to you.
And the ground crew used to carry on about having to change this port tire. Anyway, so there you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, Edgar, thank you. Could everybody be outstanding and let it roll? And let's propose a toast to Edgar Pickles, BFC and Barn. Edgar Pickles. Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray!
Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
Thank you, Edgar.